Honorable Minister Zeyoudi, Honorable Ministers, authorities, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to welcome you to the heart of Europe for the 6th EU Gulf Cooperation Council Business Forum. This meeting is both welcome and timely, given the very challenging global developments we have faced and continue to face in 2022. Russia's illegal aggression against Ukraine continues to present a threat to global security and economic stability. The detrimental effect of Russia's war on food security, supply chains, energy and raw materials are clear to see for us all. In this challenging environment, the EU is fully committed to strengthening economic ties between our two blocs. By developing our areas of mutual interest, by working in a more collaborative way, we can achieve real benefits. We have a great shared potential to build more resilient, sustainable and efficient economic model. Such transformations can deliver great advantages to our citizens, our businesses and our natural environment. The EU is guided in this important work by our communication on a strategic partnership with the Gulf, published in May this year. The strategic aim of this roadmap is clear. We want to broaden and deepen our cooperation with the GCC and its member countries. Of course, we are building from a strong platform. Together, the EU and GCC represent 20% of the global economy, 17.5% of global trade, and more than half of global foreign direct investment. In 2021, the EU was GCC's second biggest trading partner, while the EU was also the GCC's fifth biggest export market. Bilateral investment flows and trading services are also very robust. We view the Gulf as a dynamic neighboring region, as an important gateway between Europe, Asia, and Africa. The EU is a key partner for the Gulf region, based on our economic strengths and as the world's biggest single market and a #1 trader and investor. We're also a leader in research and innovation and a leading actor on global challenges such as climate change and digitalization. So, keeping all this in mind, let me present some of the challenges our regions face, as well as shared opportunities on the horizon. Our two regions share an overarching strategic ambition, namely to speed up the green and digital transformations of our economies and societies. This meaning turning digitalization and climate action into economic opportunities for our citizens. It means economic diversification, innovation, and making better use of our resources. It means generating new jobs in the economies of the future while meeting our global targets such as Paris Agreement commitments. To help us to speed up these transformations, we need to work in a mutually beneficial way. The EU communication on a strategic partnership with the Gulf, which I mentioned earlier, provides a valuable framework to address these issues. It builds on the strengths of important recent EU initiatives such as a Global Gateway, food security communication, EU Green Deal, and our open, sustainable and assertive trade strategy. The joint communication proposes a series of key policy areas in which enhanced cooperation is desirable. This is relevant not only for policymakers, but equally for the private sector. We want the full force of our business and industry to spearhead the transformations I have mentioned. The structures of our trade and investment relationships are based on our 1989 cooperation agreement. Negotiations to the free trade deal came to a halt in 2008, mainly due to different levels of ambitions on key points. Since then, the EU trade agenda has evolved significantly. Our free trade agreements now include ambitious commitments on sustainable development and labor rights. They provide an ideal platform for pursuing the green and digital transformations I mentioned earlier. From the EU side, we are keen to continue discussions aiming to improve the understanding of our respective positions with a view towards resuming negotiations for a free trade agreement. These discussions should take a closer look at areas of mutual interest, including the enhanced trade and investment environment, regulatory and customs cooperation, as well as sustainable development objectives. In the meantime, we will explore ways to strengthen our existing trade and investment dialogue. There are many areas where we can do more: improved regulatory cooperation, better protection of intellectual property rights, including geographical indications, stronger cooperation on customs and anti-fraud matters, including the fight against counterfeiting and smuggling, supporting renewable energy and resource efficiency, promoting digital trade, building sustainable supply chains. GCC countries have made remarkable efforts in upgrading their regulatory capacity. In many cases, these changes responded to concern expressed by businesses and investors. The EU and its member states are ready to share our experience on how to stimulate a supportive business environment for small and medium enterprises in sectors related to digitalization, energy, the green economy, and sustainable tourism. We can also share our experience of the alignment of study curricula and how to support the entrepreneurial culture. We should continue to improve business cooperation by removing market access barriers. Both sides will benefit from generating fair, transparent, and non-discriminatory investment-inducing policies. To achieve these objectives, the EU intends to support the creation of EU chambers of commerce in GCC countries. The EU also welcomes and supports economic diversification strategies in respective Gulf countries. The EU-GCC Economic Diversification Project was set up to support these strategies. The forum which we organize today is one of the components of this project. Another goal of the project is to learn from each other's best practices in setting and applying standards, norms and procedures governing trade and investment relationships. I would like to thank you all stakeholders for their active participation in the project so far, and I invite you to do even more to advance our common goals. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I wish to address what is perhaps the most important focus on our discussions today, namely the new sectoral opportunities arising from the green and digital transitions. Let me start with digital transformation. We have a golden opportunity to strengthen trust and confidence in the digital world, both for businesses and consumers. Key areas of action include privacy, data security, e-commerce, the use of artificial intelligence, automation, and blockchain technology. The EU has created a groundbreaking regulatory frameworks in these areas, and our Digital Europe funding program aims to shape the digital transformation while accelerating economic recovery. The program boosts investment in artificial intelligence, new digital technologies, but it focuses on cybersecurity and advanced digital skills too. Cybersecurity is becoming a crucial factor for economic prosperity. Ransomware attacks worldwide are not only becoming more frequent, but also more expensive and dangerous for businesses and governments. With its new cybersecurity strategy, the EU is developing the world's most ambitious and comprehensive legislative framework, setting a global example. The twin transitions will require the growth of new skill sets. We are therefore developing a new skills agenda for Europe to make the European job market more resilient and versatile. Our regions should join forces and work closely together in these matters. When it comes to the green economy, we note with great satisfaction that the GCC countries are stepping up efforts in the fields of renewable energy, electric cars, and circular economy. There is a huge potential for synergies between our regions in these and other areas of green economy. Cooperation in low-carbon technologies has huge potential to support shared policy objectives. Then, to move to the next topic, for the Gulf countries, food security is an important priority. You are developing state-of-the-art technologies such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and genetic engineering to enhance your local production capacity. The EU can be a privileged partner in this respect, as we have developed cutting-edge technologies and practices in agriculture. Smart, high-tech farming technologies can provide many solutions. Indeed, they are already making an impact in the region. Allow me next to highlight an important and closely related policy area, innovation and entrepreneurship. This topic will be discussed in detail later today. The EU's post-COVID recovery strategy is based on innovation. This is essential if we are to succeed in the transition to a low-carbon, circular and digitalized economy. And it's vital to maintain our industrial leadership and competitive edge. Our main policy instrument is the Horizon Europe program, the world's largest research and development fund. I'm also certain that both the EU and the GCC will strive to develop our healthcare sector in a targeted way. This is in particular relevant given our recent pandemic experiences. We can look at innovative ways to deliver healthcare services such as telemedicine and digital medicine. This is yet another area with huge potential for deeper cooperation. Let me also mention the importance of company internationalization. SMEs that are internationally active grow faster, create more jobs, and are more innovative. One of the major EU tools for supporting internationalization of the SMEs is the Enterprise Europe Network, or EN for short. It is the world's largest support network for SMEs with a presence in 66 countries via 625 partner organizations. We would be pleased to have GCC enterprises in the network in the future. This would help to deliver enhanced international business opportunities for emerging SMEs in the region. Let me stress that the EU is also keen to encourage and support other areas of cooperation, such as promotion of entrepreneurship, women's economic participation, integration of young and migrant entrepreneurs, and the promotion of startups, scale-ups, and second chance initiatives. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of today's event is people, place, and prosperity. Simply put, we should leave no stone unturned in realizing the full potential of cooperation between our regions. I'm sure that today's impressive business forum will contribute to this goal in a meaningful and tangible way. I encourage you to have productive exchanges, and I look forward for hearing the outcomes of your discussions. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's my pleasure to address you all at the 6th EU-GCC Business Forum. Today's event provides an ideal opportunity to reflect on the latest policy initiatives adopted by both European Union and Gulf Cooperation Council, and to take a closer look at tools being used by both blocs to address the current challenges of climate change, energy security, and digital transformation. As we begin to look beyond the recovery stage, this is the time to build a more resilient future by exploring new partnerships model to intensify trade and investments exchanges. The value of the UAE's total non-oil foreign trade with European Union countries totaled $51.3 billion in 2021. The European Union is the UAE's second most important trading partner after China, accounting for 9.86% of our total non-oil foreign trade in 2021. The EU is also the second most important source of the UAE's imports, with 13.5% of our total merchandise imports from the world, again second only to China. At the same time, the UAE currently ranks as EU's 23rd largest trading partner, accounting for 0.9% of the total trade in goods by EU with the world for the year 2021. In the Arab world, the EU is the EU's second largest trading partner after Saudi Arabia. Looking at the trade and services, the UAE ranks as EU's 15th largest global trading partner and number one Arab trading partner as of 2021. In terms of individual countries, Italy is our number one EU trading partner with non-oil trade amounting to $10.6 billion in 2021, followed by Germany, France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Spain. There are also robust investment flows. At the end of 2020, the UAE was the second largest market for EU's investments globally, and the first in the Arab world. The UAE is also the third largest global investors in the EU market, with investments totaling 51.5 billion euros as of 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, In line with our efforts to ensure economic prosperity and sustainability over the next 50 years, the UAE has made significant progress in transforming our business and investments landscape, improving its openness, adaptability, and its global competitiveness. The UAE economy is now more flexible, sustainable, and diverse, and firmly positioned on a positive growth trajectory. Over the last couple of years, the UAE granted 100% foreign ownership, restructured the entry and residency system to attract talent, strengthened anti-money laundering processes, family businesses, and IP protection, to name a few. These bold steps have reinforced the UAE's status as an ideal destination for work, investment, entrepreneurship, education, and life, and we are already seeing the results in many areas. Additional initiatives designed to strengthen the UAE's ability to consolidate its position as one of the world's most attractive FDI destinations are Next Gen FDI, a multi-stakeholder program that fast-tracks the market entry and setup of advanced technology companies from around the world. Emirates Investment Summit, Investopia, which connects investment funds with the public and private sectors to attract 550 billion dirhams in FDI over the next 9 years. At the same time, we're also working to fundamentally transform the UAE's entrepreneurial landscape through the launch of an array of specifically tailored initiatives targeting citizens, global technology companies, SMEs, and university students. The results of these forward-looking measures are already evident in various economic spheres. The UAE recorded its highest ever non-oil foreign trade in the first half of the financial year in 2022, with a total value of 1 trillion dirhams. We are also continuing to work in accordance with the joint economic efforts with the GCC countries, which is seen as a major international economic bloc and champion of sustainable developments across the region and the world. The GCC countries work within an integrated and realistic framework to drive our economy forward, taking the needs of our people into account. Therefore, the UAE, along with our GCC partners, look forward to the outcomes of this session in facilitating more transformational partnerships between the GCC and EU businesses. Thank you.
I'm happy to be here. The GCC and the EU have been partners for a long time. 35 years ago, we signed our first cooperation agreement in Luxembourg. And for most of those 35 years, the EU was our #1 trading partner. Until today, the EU is a very important trading partner. Also, I must say that in that trade relationship, for most of those 35 years, there was a surplus in favor of the EU, meaning that EU traders have been much more clever than their GCC counterparts and have achieved a lot more from this relationship. Investment also has been very high. Earlier this year, in February, here in Brussels, the foreign ministers of our 33 countries decided to upgrade our relationship to a strategic partnership, meaning it's going to be more encompassing than only trade and investment, and will include almost every aspect of life, both here and in the GCC, meaning political and security, trade and investment, people to people, you name it. And for that purpose, they adopted a 5-year joint action program which covers all of those areas. Several components of the joint action program, in fact, involve action by the business community. And they have opened the door wide, even more than before, for the business community to take advantage of this new trend, this new turn in the GCC-EU relationship, and build on it, build on the momentum that has been created. And as you probably know, in May of this year, the EU also adopted a new strategy toward the Gulf that includes the joint action program and goes beyond that. So I think the timing of this forum is excellent because it is coming at this momentous period where policymakers, politicians are open for greater engagement between the EU and the GCC. Of course, we're living in difficult times in the shadow of the Ukraine war, which has led to great challenges, whether it's energy security or food insecurity, or the threats that are facing the international economy. The IMF expects that next year will be a recession in most countries. This year, there has been considerable slowdown, including in the EU region, for understandable reasons because of the war. The GCC region has bucked this trend. In fact, this year has been one of our best years ever, for many reasons, which I will discuss in a little bit. The GCC as a region has been the fastest growing region economically during 22. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have been the fastest growing two economies globally as well. The overall, or the average growth in the economy of the GCC of the 6 countries is about 6.4%, which is extremely high considering that all over the world the rates are much less than that, or even in the negative in some places. So we are living in a good time in the GCC. We also this year we have marked another milestone, which is the GCC combined GCC GDPs have crossed the $2 trillion mark for the first time in our history. Saudi Arabia has crossed the $1 trillion mark also for the first time in its history. Next year, while the IMF expects, as I said, recession in most countries, it is expecting fairly healthy growth in the GCC region for about 3.6%. Recently, the IMF has revised its outlook for its global outlook downwards, but not for the GCC region. It has, in fact, revised it upwards a little bit. Inflation has been kept under control for less than 4% this year, and expected to even go less next year to less than 3%, which is good, considering the rise in food prices in the GCC and other costs. The trade surplus also this year marked a remarkable year, 17% of GDP, the trade surplus. An incredible figure when you compare it to just a couple of years ago when some of our member states were in the negative in their trade balance. Also, fiscal balances are in the positive, on average about 7% of GDP this year in surplus after 8 years of deficits. So all the indicators are positive. Obviously, oil revenue has something to do with it, but it doesn't tell the whole story because there are other oil-producing countries that have not achieved as much. And I think the main culprit or the main reason is the aggressive diversification programs throughout the GCC. Saudi Arabia has the several mega projects aiming at diversification, and I'll talk about some of them in a little bit. UAE has insisted that the Expo 2020 go ahead, despite the pandemic. They postponed it by 1 year, but still it was held. And of course, Qatar has invested heavily in preparation for the World Cup. The other 3 GCC countries have also have had their diversification programs. And I think that's probably the main contributor to the sterling performance that the GCC countries have gone through, which opens, I think, opportunities for partnerships between EU traders, EU investors, EU SMEs, and their counterparts in the GCC, greater than before. And I think I can speak of about 5 priority areas. All of them, by the way, fit nicely in both the EU strategy and in the EU-GCC joint action program, meaning that there is political support for these priority areas. And the 5 priority areas, first, energy. And here we talk about energy, conventional energy, oil and gas, but also renewables, solar and green hydrogen, in addition to what we believe to be an important area, which is transition fuels, transition energy, such as blue hydrogen. And almost all of the GCC countries are embarking on these energy projects, and they have invited investors from all over the world to partner with them, and at the same time to fulfill the energy needs of the EU. Next is food security. The Ukraine war exposed the weakness in the food supply chains. There is plenty of production around the world, despite localized shortages and droughts, but there is enough production. The problem is in distribution and logistics. So that opens the door, I think, for partnerships in this sector, and the logistics, especially as they relate to food projects. Yesterday, in the macroeconomic dialogue between the EU and the GCC, we talked about this at length. And so there's plenty of room to grow in the food logistics sector. Third, as you probably are aware, all GCC countries have started diversification programs. And diversification in the GCC means several things. But 2 of them are relevant for this business forum. And one of them is diversification of the industrial base away from the dominance of oil and gas. In the intermediate and long run, GCC countries aim to depend more on non-oil sectors than on oil sector. But for the time being, of course, oil and gas are still very important. And that includes the diversification here includes almost every sector you can think of. But where we have comparative advantage in the GCC is in the petrochemicals, in mining, in aluminum production, but also in services. All of these sectors are open for joint investments. And conversely, also, our investors are keen to invest in the EU area. I already talked about energy diversification. That's the other sense of diversification that's relevant to our meeting today. Next is the job creation, projects that create jobs. GCC countries are keen to provide full employment for their citizens. We have a paradox where the economies are growing very fast, but employment of nationals is lagging behind. And so any project that provides jobs that are suitable for the skills of the national labor force would be welcome. And then finally, for these diversified economies, there are new sectors, and they need new skills. So training and education, providing these skills for the labor force will be worthwhile projects. So I would say these 5 sectors are of priority for us, and I think they provide good opportunities for cooperation in the business community, both in the EU and the GCC. Thank you very much.